The 14th of February, the Ukrainian media center is operating. Your anchor is Svetlana Necheparenko. We are talking about the energy situation that is looming, and that is in the looming prospects of the freezing temperatures. Before we talk about general issues, this morning the enemy has hit the sarcophagus at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. What can you say about what is known about the damage and what the consequences are likely to be? At this point in time, we have already seen what has happened. Indeed, there is partly indications of the ruins, and there are no seemingly evident repercussions. Of course, it'll take time to renew the sarcophagus, but as for the radiation threats, there are no threats. Political expansion, what do you think will mean in the backdrop of the Munich Security Conference now that the Russian enemy is attacking us again? This is somewhere between the military and the politics, and I am in no position to comment on what I am not a very good expert. Let us talk about then freezing temperatures. We have been entertained by good weather, and of course for energy system it's very good. Currently the Ukrainian weather authorities are predicting the temperatures below freezing point. Do you think we will see the blackouts introduced, perhaps for businesses or for the consumers? What we are seeing is that the temperature is going down, and of course it is natural that the consumption grows, and this consumption should be made up for. Unfortunately, the generation capabilities of Ukraine are quite limited. We are now using all the capabilities that are available. We are also managing to cover all the consumption except the business area. At the left Dnieper bank river, we see the distribution problems in the energy system. What will happen depends on two parameters. One is the weather, and secondly, how generation system is working. We know that the system in general has been compromised, and it is sometimes very difficult to work out why the system is working in the first place. My forecast is this: if over average temperature will go down to below 7 or 9 degrees centigrade, one of the scenarios that we can only foresee that are not 100% given, then perhaps we will introduce minimal blackouts, but it'll not last long. But I don't see the doomsday scenario in terms of limitation of energy supply, provided we don't see new active attacks that will lead to the shortage of generation capabilities. Once they hit an energy infrastructure, this is the objective infrastructure situation that we are facing. If you were to ask me what is better, if Russians hit the sarcophagus or the general electric grid, the first option is my choice. Now we are moving towards the issue of the Khmelnytsk nuclear power plant, a project that is at the table at the parliament. How is it that energy is still working? Nuclear energy in Ukraine is at the center of the grid. We should be aware of that. All that we already have at our availability comes down to nuclear. Nuclear is working. The nuclear units are working. They're generating power. And Basically, this is how we are not limiting the consumption of energy. The situation is not that simple. It is complex. It is worsened by the attacks against the gas deposits. We are now seeing limitations in our use of gas. The storages has almost been expired. And it's not a matter of what we will see next year, but we want to storage enough gas to live through the next season of heating. We are now going towards other sources of energy, and we are using all the possible availabilities, including black oil, to make up for the losses that the Ukrainian extraction has seen. Traditionally, we have been storing gas to live through the heating season in summertime, and it is conditioned by our own domestic extraction. The situation that we are seeing currently is that the capabilities will be restored only partly, and it is for sure that we will not be able to live through the next heating season with a domestic extraction. The Ministry of Energy sector has announced that we need additional 1 billion cubic meters. I don't think this is reality. My estimation is we need at least 3 billion cubic meters of gas. Hopefully, government is thinking about that issue. Naftogaz doesn't seem to be having enough financial resources. Otherwise, we cannot explain why either that other governmental bodies are buying the gas. This is an indicator that Naftogaz doesn't have enough financial resources to buy the gas that is extremely needed today. But to live through the next heating system starting May, we should be starting storaging, including the imports that we need. The way that issue will be solved is something I don't see signals coming from the government that it is dealing with the issues and what are the future modes of solving the issues. I believe that it would make sense to store enough gas, provided that the enemy is hitting our gas storages on a stable footing now. Over the last month, we have seen 3 attacks, and this is unofficial estimation, but it looks as if 30 to 35% of our extractions are not available. We are doing everything we can to restore those facilities. The equipment for the so-called compressor stations, in a way, is as complex and as difficult in delivering to Ukraine. It's something that we saw over a couple of last years when we didn't have enough electric transformers. This is the situation that we are seeing in the compressor area. To produce them, to start producing them will take at least a year or more, and the reserves are not available neither in Europe nor in Ukraine. And there are now given information about the general availability. Indeed, to procure gas, you must plan for that, but it should be understood that if Naftogaz pays the offices that used to extract now in the past about 30 billion over a year, they were paying 6,000 hryvnias for a unit. Now the contracts see the 32 hryvnias. Now let us assume that the European prices will go down to 300 in spring. In spring, as a rule, prices for gas are going down. Of course, it's much less than 6,000 hryvnias, and then the issue will be very critical. Where do you get the money from? The government will have to deal with that question because there is no alternative, because there is no gas market in Ukraine, and given that, only budget will come in handy. As for the Khmelnytskyi nuclear power plant, the parliament has already green-lighted the project to build new units without the help coming from Russia. Let me correct you. The parliament has not green-lighted anything. They passed a law allowing for buying the equipment for 2 nuclear units, the equipment that has been sitting and stored in Bulgaria for a couple of years now. Correspondingly, the decision can be commented in one way. It's a political decision that has been taken defying the reality in terms of energy structure. It's a political decision. I personally know not the circumstances that made this issue such a relevant and urgent that it has been passed. It's a political decision, I will reiterate. Neither financial nor other limitations have not been voiced, but I see a lot of detrimental issues here. For Parliament, it is a political decision, including the context of an attempt to, on the one hand, live up to political will that the president has pronounced publicly. On the other hand, to the best of my knowledge, the Parliament has a lot of financial and technical issues on the implementation of the project. So what they voted on was a permit to buy the equipment. As I understand the situation, the draft will be prepared in terms of the technical issues and the working plans to make sure that the Parliament is sure that a next law will be passed allowing for the construction, or they will preclude the construction. Now, this will beg the question, what do we do with the equipment that has been paid for but has to be licensed yet at the Energoatom and their supervising bodies? Because we are talking about 27, 29 billion hryvnias, it must be approved by the supervising board. I can't answer your question. It is the issue with the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of the Energy, and they are representing the side of the owner. Thank you, sir, for your questions. We've been talking about the energy system of Ukraine with the Director of Energy Industry Research Center, Mr. Kharchenko. Will resume our work on Monday. Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned.